Hi everybody, it's Sarah from Twisted Pine Farm. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I saw this recipe on, I think it's like the Empty Nest or something like that, or My Empty Nest. And I had to try it because I was really interested in making some homemade fudgesicles. So this is kind of like a double duty situation where I'm not only reviewing the recipe, but I'm also going to talk about the ice cream mold or popsicle mold that I purchased from Dollarama. It's a silicone mold. It's like $5 or something. But this is not my recipe. This is from Tales from the Empty Nest or whatever her thing is. I'll link her channel down below. But right here, we are going to start making basically a pudding, like a chocolate pudding. And you don't want to skimp out here. You don't want to skimp out. You want the good stuff. You want the Fry's cocoa powder. So I just put 3/4 cups of white sugar in this pot. And now I'm going to put in, I believe it's a 1/2 cup of the cocoa powder. I'm just using the smaller 1/4 cup scoop because that's what fit into the container of the cocoa powder. So that's where we're at. Just looping back to this silicone mold that I got from Dollarama. It was literally $5 and I couldn't say no. Now I'm using some cornstarch. Basically what we're doing is we are making a chocolate pudding and we're going to add some heavy cream to it at the end and we're going to freeze it and it's going to come out just like a fudgesicle. So I am adding some cornstarch here. You want this cornstarch because it's going to thicken up at the end before we put our whipping cream in. I'll get you the measurements. We're going to add also a little bit of salt. I usually just eyeball it, but I decided, I should probably double check and make sure that I have the right measurement of salt. But it was a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm whisking everything together. So for the cornstarch, I put in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're whisking all the dry ingredients together. I also wanted to mention I have the burner heating up. I started heating this burner up already as I was mixing everything together because this is a really old kitchen. It's a really old stovetop and it takes a really long time for the elements to heat up. This is from like the 1970s, so don't hate. It still works. Now I'm going to be adding in 2 cups of 2% milk. And I'm going to whisk that in. You're going to try to make sure that you don't have any lumps. You'll see that I did get a couple lumps because I wasn't whisking enough, but it's not going to affect the flavor at all. It's just going to be a texture thing. So you want to whisk the milk in so it's not lumpy. Now I'm going to add my 2nd cup of milk. And I have to say, I tried these Fudgesicles earlier and they're pretty good. They're almost identical to the store-bought ones, but a little bit better, not gonna lie. And I know what's in it because I made it. So there's that. So I'm just whisking the milk in here. And basically what we're doing, like I said, is we're making a pudding. I just want to show you these popsicle molds that I got. So it's a silicone mold and it comes with plastic inserts, but you could actually, I kind of regret not picking up some regular popsicle sticks because I demolded all of these popsicles earlier and now the mold is empty, but I can't make more popsicles yet because I'm using all the plastic pieces. Anyways, I'm going to go pick up some popsicle sticks so I can make another batch of different flavor. I saw a key lime flavor that looked pretty good that I might want to try next. So yes, I'm whisking and whisking and whisking. Do yourself a favor. Do not try to shortcut here. you want to make sure that all of your lumps are out and that this coats the back of a spoon. Once it thickens up, you'll see it thickening up and it will coat the back of a spoon. That's when you're going to take it off of the heat. You see me do that now. I'm taking it off of the heat. And now we're going to add in, I think it's 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. I just have the artificial stuff. If you want to go all out, you can get the good stuff. All good. So we're adding, again, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And then we're going to add in our 1 cup of heavy cream. So 33% whipping cream. It's also called heavy cream. Depends on where you are. But it's the same thing. But this is going to make it really nice and ice cream consistency versus just milk, right? I'm sure you could probably make this a cheaper way, because I did the math, and to be honest, it's not cost effective to do this. It's not like you're saving money by making your own Fudgesicles. However, the ingredients are premium, right? So if you were to buy these Fudgesicles somewhere else, you'd be paying way, way, way more for what you're getting. However, the cost is comparable. If you're making it homemade versus buying, you know, no-name Fudgesicles or even popsicle Fudgesicles at the store, it's the same basic price. So I'm just going to be transferring this into a Pyrex measuring cup just so that I could make it easier on myself to pour into these molds. Now this popsicle mold is a 10 slot, and I'm pretty sure it's 60 mils per slot, which is the exact same size as a store-bought Fudgesicle. And this recipe specifically fit all of these perfectly. So I cannot complain. It all worked out very well. I wasn't sure at first if I was going to have enough, but once I started pouring and scraping all of that goodness, you're going to watch, I'm going to scrape all of the goodness off of this pan and this Pyrex into those molds, because I paid for this. I'm not wasting it. I'm going to scrape the absolute loving crap out of it and get it all in those molds so that I can enjoy it later. But I have to say, it worked out perfectly. This recipe took me probably 20 minutes altogether to make, which seems like a long time, but I am kind of filming things, and this isn't necessarily the way that I would cook something. I wouldn't cook something with a whole bunch of stuff sitting on the counter beside me. I'd have some space and, you know, whatever, and running around and putting things away and doing dishes and stuff. Kind of made things a little bit longer. It doesn't look like it here, but I cut all that stuff out. It's the beauty of video, right? So anyways, I'm pouring all this into the things. It's working perfectly. Silicone molds are wonderful. I do have to say, so I put this on a cookie sheet so that I could have it on a flat surface in my freezer. First of all, you need to have room to do that. You don't need to use a cookie sheet, but, you know, carrying this plastic or silicone mold on its own is very flimsy, and you could risk squishing it or spilling it or whatever. So I would recommend carrying it around on a cookie sheet and transferring it on the cookie sheet into the freezer, or very, very carefully into the freezer if you're not using the cookie sheet. Now, when these are frozen, you need to let these freeze at least 6 hours, or overnight is better. I waited until 24 hours later. The mold will be difficult to remove. You just need to run whatever slot you're taking out, whatever popsicle you're taking out, under cold water for like, you know, maybe 10 seconds, and then you can push the popsicle out of the mold. I had no casualties. All of them looked great. I'm using my fingers to push the rest of this goodness into the slots because I didn't have any paper towel. So that's what we're working with. We're using our fingers today. This is homemade. So there's that. So I'm just going to let you know that once you get these out of the mold, you have to work quickly. So I would recommend, if you are taking them out of the mold, to use the mold to make more popsicles, that you have, some squares of wax paper and a freezer bag handy so that you can wrap all of these up very, very fast. Put them in the freezer bag and put them in the freezer immediately because they will melt very quickly. There is my lovely popsicle. This is what I did. So I had them all in the freezer and I wrapped them up like this. It worked great. And they tasted wonderful. I have to give kudos to what's her face. I'll link her channel below, but this recipe was top notch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next one.